Hey cuties, PeachY here, welcome back to a new video, and in this video we're gonna dig deeper into the new Cleo x Frankie ship, the backlash it has received. Is it forced pandering or is it true representation? All that and more. Stay tuned and let's get into it. So ever since the new episode came out, the Cleo x Frankie ship has been going strong. Even the live action actors, Cici Balago, who plays Frankie, and Jey who plays Cleo, they've also responded to the new hashtag clanky ship here in the comments, and Jey even liked my post when I reshared the comments and the pictures of hashtag clanky. So this has to mean something. I mean, it could be that they just as people like this ship, and it might not have anything to do with the live action sequel relationship between Frankie and Cleo. I don't think, maybe it'll affect their relationship, but I do think the live action movies and the animated series, they are two different things. So I'm not sure if Frankie and Cleo will be a thing also in the live action movie, the sequel. I mean, never say never, but it's just really cute nonetheless that the live action actors supported this, and it's so fun to see Cici's reaction. Like, it's just, I feel like that's how we all felt. Like, it's just so awesome. And so let's see what it kind of turns into the live action sequel, because it could be not. I feel like it really depends on the response that Nickelodeon and Mattel will get from this newest episode with this relationship and ship that has been revealed. Jey then shared on her Instagram stories this little comparison that the last shot of the episode where Cleo and Frankie have that iconic, they share a look. Jey says that she also has homemade jewelry actually made by Cici. So that's just a really, it's a cute little coincidence. I don't know if they ever planned, like, if that was intentional, but it's a, I don't know, like, it has to mean something. It's like it's meant to be, like, it's so iconic. And then they also shared these behind the scenes looks of Frankie and Cleo, like doing some games and like playing around. I'm not sure if this is from the first movie. I think these might be like bloopers from the first movie. I don't think this is from the second movie. So again, I don't think Cleo and Frankie are going to be introduced as a ship in the live action sequel. But again, it's just so cute seeing that now you get to see a relationship through a completely different lens, and like what could be what could become something between two characters. There has been a lot of love shown for hashtag clanky, which, by the way, do you like that ship name, or do you like Frank Cleo? Or I think there's another one too, Frank Cleo. Yeah. I think clanky is just like, it's the easiest to like pronounce. Joseph Amaro on his story makes a lot of good points on how this could be forced corporate pandering, and it's not actually true representation, especially because Cleo and Frankie, they were never written this way to be queer in G1, and now with this ship, it's like, well, couldn't they have just introduced some of the existing characters from G1 who were queer coded, and that's where they could have written that storyline, written a queer storyline, and it would have actually fit with the characters and how they were meant to be written. I get that it's difficult, because and reboots, soft reboots, different generation, even then it's like, well, still, couldn't you have just brought back like Kiyumi, or like made like just different characters come back, or like Claudine was supposed to be queer apparently, and a lot of people like that idea. So maybe make Claudine in a relationship with like another character who's like so that would have made more sense, because people would have been more accustomed to that idea already, instead of just bringing back bringing together Cleo and Frankie, two characters that never really had much to do with each other, and make them a pair now in G3. I see where he's coming from. I see the points, and to some degree it's true. Like, they could have introduced Skelita, and they are going to bring her back, but like they made Laguna that, you know, Latina representation person now. They didn't. And you know, Skelita, she is, you know, Latina, like she was written that way, but instead now they changed to Laguna, who was Australian, to be Latina now, which again, it's great, but like I see what he's saying. Like, they could have brought back Skelita from the start to offer that kind of representation, and Laguna could have stayed Australian. They could have, you know, brought back Jennifer to have that Asian, you know, Chinese representation, and they could have kept Draculaura Romanian. So like, there's a lot of things here that they changed with characters that they could have just kept the characters as they were and just brought back more characters. But at the same time, I feel like Mattel was trying to, you know, hit two birds with one stone, or what's the saying? Like, they were trying to get around it quickly. I think they were trying to introduce as much representation and diversity as they could in one swoop. Like, they saw the original cast of characters, Frankie, Cleo, Claudine, Draculaura, Deuce, and so on, and they thought, okay, this is how they looked like, this is how they were written in the past in G1. In G3 now, how can we make the most changes and make them look like the least changes possible to these characters, and introduce at the same time the most diversity and representation in this new day and age? That's very important, where it's very important for media to have that kind of representation and diversity, where unfortunately, yes, you do get brownie points, you do get, you know, it's token representation, but it's still representation nonetheless. It's still very important, you know, to have that kind of diversity in media. Even in kids media, it's more important, because, you know, people want to see that happen. And so they thought, well, how can we make that happen? And so they made Laguna, they made her Hispanic, they made her with the Colombian heritage, right? They made Draculaura, they changed her from Romanian to Asian, even though those two characters now, we haven't seen any of that heritage come into play yet. So it could be written off as just pandering, because there has been no development, and it does seem to be just a token to what their character is now in G3. And so the same thing happened here with Cleo and Frankie, two characters who canonically in the past were never shown to be queer coded, and now in G3 they seemingly out of nowhere introduce a ship together to kind of just, you know, check the box of queer representation. That's what it looks like from a corporate standpoint, but I don't think it's entirely corporate pandering, to be honest. I think, like, if this episode happened with the prior episodes not introducing any kind of, like, you know, scenes of them together, of Cleo and Frankie, yes, I would have thought this is kind of pandering, this is like bullshit, because it's like, it's not true, it's just fake. But the thing is, they had been leading up to this relationship from a couple episodes now. Like, we had the pyramid scheme with Nephra. They had cute scenes in that episodes of Frankie and Cleo, and then we had Crushed, where Frankie got turned down for field eating. There we also got a really nice scene with them together. So there have been scenes in prior episodes that have been building up to something greater. That seems to be what happened in this newest episode in Horror Scare, where, you know, it seems that both Frankie and Cleo are now realizing that they might like each other. And so it has been leading up to this point. It has been building up, at least in my opinion. So to me, that's why it's not entirely, it doesn't entirely feel like corporate fake pandering and fake representation, because it has been, you know, they laid the groundwork. It's been building up. The tension has been building, and we all kind of have been feeling it build. And this is kind of like what it's been building up to. So I think it makes sense. That's the thing. Like, it makes sense in this generation of characters and that dynamics of the characters. So it's not like it's just like out of place. Like, it's not. It's organic. It feels natural. But then, of course, there's also like the whole question of like, well, Claudine was supposed to be kind of queer. What happened to that? And you're like, Deuce, what's gonna happen out of Deuce? Like, there's people who don't like this ship just because Deuce should have been in a pair with Cleo, and that's understandable. They're iconic in G1, but this is G3. You know, Deuce, it was never a safe bet who was gonna be with who, and now with Cleo and Frankie, it seems that, you know, Deuce might not be in a relationship with either of them. So while Deuce might not be, you know, together with Frankie or Cleo, you know, will he get together with Claudine? That would be really bad, because again, Claudine, people want her to be with Draculaura, like people want her to be queer, and then Deuce, people wanted Deuce to be with Cleo because it's just an iconic pairing. But with, you know, the queer token card being, you know, belonging to Cleo and Frankie now, and then, you know, Cleo is no longer available for Deuce, it seems that Claudine and Deuce both kind of like lost a part of like what makes him special, which is, you know, Claudine, the possibility of her being queer, and then Deuce, you know, him being with Cleo. They're both off the table now. So I don't know what's gonna happen with those two characters. We know Claudine has a crush on someone. We don't know who it is. Maybe she could still be queer. That could still happen, of course, with Deuce. It would have been interesting. Maybe people said that maybe if they had introduced like a polyamorous type of relationship where Cleo, Deuce, and Frankie would have been kind of like open in a relationship all together, that would have been very interesting, because I've never seen that represented in kind of like this kind of like kids media. I mean, of course not. It's not as like it's not as common, unfortunately, you know. So let's see what happens. I think, you know, maybe with the Monster Ball episode where Deuce is gonna ask Frankie to the ball, maybe they'll kind of develop a relationship there. I'm not sure what will happen. It's interesting. It's also interesting because a lot of people say that it was the wrong pairing of characters to introduce this kind of like queer representation. So what pair would you have liked to see in this position instead? Like, would you have liked to see Claudine and Draculaura instead? Would you have liked to see, I don't know, Deuce and Claude? Like, people have been shipping them together. So like, what queer pairing would you have preferred to see in this position instead, or just pairing in general? Like, would you have liked to see Deuce and Cleo be in this position instead, or like, you know, like, what are your thoughts on this situation? Because I think it's great. I don't think it's pandering. I think they built up to this situation very well. It's been, you know, it's been building, you know. I don't think it's out of nowhere. I don't think it's out of place. I mean, is it different from like the original G1 characters and how they were written for Cleo and Frankie? Yes, but I mean, that's kind of like a given for a new generation of a new version of different characters, you know, a new version of the same characters. It's a given that they're gonna be different. So I mean, yeah, let me know what you think of like the ship. Do you like it? What pairing would you have preferred to see in this position with a ship? I don't know. It's, again, very fascinating because I like it. I like them together. I think they fit. They have chemistry. That's like the most important thing. And they have chemistry. So I'm not against it, but I see why people maybe are not for it, you know. But yeah, that was a lot to talk about. Let me know what your thoughts are down below. I hope y'all enjoyed. That was the video. Leave a like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell if you haven't already so you don't miss out when I post more content like this coming your way daily and keeping you up to date with all the loyalty you love. Stay safe, be kind. I hope this next time. Stay peachy. Kisses.